So welcome to everybody. Good afternoon. I am Catherine Le Yawank, the General Manager of the British Chambers of Commerce in France. And we are delighted to welcome you at this first session of a series of 3 webinars on doing business in France. This webinar is in association with the British Embassy and your experts in France. At the end of the presentation, you will be able to ask questions. However, do not hesitate to write in the chat. We will also answer your questions during the presentation. So we will start with Luke Sexton, who is the trade advisor export growth of the British Embassy in Paris, and he will give us an overview on the French market. Luke, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It's really great to be here, and I'm really happy to be here. Actually, I wondered, Catherine, if you could just scroll up with the presentation back to my overview again.
Yes.
Just to share some information about myself and about the embassy as well. I don't want to take up too much time at all, because basically, frankly speaking, the experts are coming after me. And I'm really happy to be working in partnership with the Chamber, with the Franco-British Chamber, and with the Your Experts in France group. I've seen a lot of familiar faces on the call, on the list, in the invitation list as well. And I know we've had chats with a lot of you in the past about how can I get in touch with these experts, Luke, in France, because frankly speaking, for the last 10 months, questions have become a lot more difficult and require a lot more expertise. And I think, with this series of webinars, with the next 3, including this one, webinars of how to do business in France, I'm hoping they can be really informative, not only for all of us in this call, but also the UK companies that we represent, that we work with daily, and French buyers as well, who are very interested in understanding the new relationship and how we continue to trade, essentially. Please feel free to contact me by my email address there. There's the website to our great.gov events page. Please see all the events that are on there. And also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm probably the only blonde person called Luke Sexton, so you can find me quite easily. Thank you very much, Catherine. If we can move down. Perfect. French market, like I said, I'm going to be very quick. I don't think there's much to say, but I'm only using these trade stats and figures here to reinforce my point that France is an extremely important market for the UK. France as a customer base for UK exporters or service providers is extremely important. You can see there France is the 6th largest consumer market for our goods, and the 5th largest consumer market for our services. I think there's 2 points really to be made, just very quickly. First one, and I think this is going to be the theme throughout all 3 webinars, is of course there are barriers or there are challenges to overcome, just like with any other market in the world, in terms of exporting, in terms of providing your services to customers. And I think France has a little bit of a stigma, especially with UK providers or UK exporters. And I think these webinars are going to overcome these challenges, or we're trying to break down these barriers. And that is the first point. France is not a difficult market to access once you're in touch with the correct people, the correct people who can minimize your risk in terms of selling to France. And the second point really is how, despite COVID and despite the last year and a half or almost 2 years now of craziness, trade is slowly but surely finding its way back. ANSI, the equivalent to the ONS in the UK, at the start of the summer were reporting that, quotation marks, normal levels of trade were almost being reached. I think it was at 90% in terms of value of total trade between France and the UK was reached in the month of May and month of June. So that's really, really positive. And now that we can travel, I think we should all build upon this. Could we move to my next slide, please, Catherine? Perfect, thank you. So for those who don't know me, or for those who don't know DIT, but I've seen a lot of people in this call already, and there are a lot of familiar faces. This slide was just to give a very quick presentation of what the hell we do and how we do it, how we can be of assistance. You can see on the left corner there, we have the United Kingdom, and you can see all the little red arrows are our local chambers of commerce. As a UK company, you can approach your local Chamber of Commerce and speak with your local international trade advisor to ask about the possibilities of developing your exports abroad. No matter what type of company you are, I would strongly suggest, if this is interesting for you, to speak to your local trade advisor. I do see we have some local ITAs, local trade advisors, international trade advisors online now, which is great to see. And I hope for you guys, this is a very valuable webinar. In DIT France specifically, you can see actually on the right-hand side, we have a little diagram professionally drawn by myself, are showing the kind of transition of inquiries from the UK to France and back. And you can see it makes a stop off in the Czech Republic, where we have our Europe Trade Hub, which is a central location for managing all of these inquiries from UK exporters who are interested in France, Germany, Italy, wherever the European market might be. But you can see how this is the process coming from ITAs to the hub in Prague, to myself in Paris, and then back out to the UK company. And our traditional forms of support, we try to stick to 1 or 2 hours worth of market research, or it could be assistance at trade shows. But honestly, since the last since COVID, I think we've all tried to be as flexible and dynamic as possible. So I know myself, I try and tailor as much as possible my assistance to UK companies. Maybe that's quite often referring them to one of your experts in France, seeing as they have the expertise. And just to finish, because I want it to be very quick, I want to have very sensible business conversations with UK companies. If it means speaking with me for an hour or 2 hours and making an introduction, that's great. But if, and I think this is a very important point, minimizing the risk that UK businesses face when they want to develop their sales to France, minimizing that risk, but also breaking down that kind of stigma, or breaking down the assumption that there's going to be something in the way that will stop me selling to a French buyer. I'm more than happy to introduce you to my experts, or the network that I'm trying to create since the last 10 months. And I think that's kind of a nice point actually to switch over and to follow up with or to follow on by our Your Experts in France group. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Luc. And we enjoyed, I can assure you. Now, one of the questions is where to set up and what you should know about France. So Louise Delattre, Inward Investment Advisor in Lille, actually. The floor is yours, Louise.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine, for this introduction. So yes, I'm Louisa Delattre, and I'm a business manager for Hello Lille, the economic development agency for the Lille area. So the topic of the webinar is how to develop your business in France. And I'm gonna speak more specifically about the localization and where to set up your business in France, how to choose your localization. And then there's a second part I'd like to talk about, is who to rely on and get advices. So let's go back to the first topic. So where to set up your business. So there's 4 things that you need to consider in order to find the right localization. Is where is your market? So then take a map, a French map, and tick where are your clients, where are they based? And you do the same job with your suppliers. If you work on production or if you're a retailer, it's very important to be based near your suppliers. And the same with your service providers. It's very important to know where they are. So you still take your French map and you tick where they're based. So it could be your logistics service provider, your customer care service provider, or marketing. That's part of your partners, and you need to be located nearby. So then, and very important to consider is where are the talents. If you need to recruit some specific talents as IT or students in healthcare, make sure you know where are the main universities or the main business schools or IT schools. So in this way, it will be easier to recruit local talents. And finally, regarding the geography, is you have to keep in mind that it's very important to be located not too far from your headquarters, meaning that you can't spend 2 days, 1 day or half a day just to go from your headquarters to your French premises. It's too long, so you have to consider the time to travel. So that's for your geography structure. Then let's talk about who to rely on and get advices, because you can't be on your own. If you develop your business in a foreign market, you need some partners. So first, I would recommend you to know the French industry clusters. There's different clusters depending on the industry you're working on. It could be healthcare, IT, agro, food, or retail e-commerce, for instance. So get to know them, understand how it works in France. If there is some other company from the UK that made the same journey as you are doing, so what are their point of view? And then start to do your business. So the first steps would be for me to find someone who could explore leads on your behalf. It could be a partner, it could be an entrepreneur or a local company that will do some marketing and sales development on your behalf. In this way, you have the first impressions of your first clients, if the products fit the French markets, if not, if it has to be improved or not. The same if it's a services. Then another way would also be to get closer to the local high business schools based locally. Could be like because they do have internships and trainee French students that want to work abroad for some international company or company based in the UK. So it's reduced the risk, and usually they do have junior business enterprises, and they can do your market studies or supply chain analysis for you, and it's relatively cheap. And so explore all these tracks. And my last advice will be to get closer to the local economic development agency. Mine is Hello Lille, so I work for the Lille area, which is located in the top north. My mission is to help foreign companies just like yours to set up their business in France, more specifically from the Lille area. So we do have 3 main industries: healthcare, creative industries, and retail and e-commerce. So I'll be more than happy to help you out. My service is completely free, as is financed by the local authorities. And my goal is to make sure that you find your place into the local ecosystems and reduce the time to market. Thank you, Catherine.
So now that you have, you know where you're going to be located, you need to know how to set up a business in France. So Stéphane, Bernard Mijon, would you like to?
Yes, Catherine, thank you. And sorry to not be on the camera, but I'm not able to. Anyway, yeah, nice to meet you, all of you. I am the CEO of Crofidelio, CPA, and member of the CRO Global Network located in Paris. So I would like to let you know how to set up a business in France, which is actually quite simple. Basically, there is, in fact, two ways of setting up a business in France. The first is to create an establishment of the foreign company. This establishment can be either a liaison office or a branch. The second way is to create a legal entity separate from the parent company and subject to French company law. Each of these three entities has its own logic and characteristics as detailed in the following slide. But before that, in summary, the liaison office cannot carry out any economic activity. It is generally created for a fairly short period in order to explore the local market on behalf of the parent company. And the branch or the sub performs an economic activity, but one is an establishment of the parent company, while the other is a separate legal entity. Yes, please. Next slide. So the liaison office, or agency, is not a new legal entity. It is used to represent the parent company's business. The agency basically serves to build up business relations with French and foreign partners, suppliers and customers, arrange advertising in various media to present products and services, take part in trade fairs, and even open a showroom. I insist on the point that the agency cannot carry out any commercial deeds. Only the parent company can issue invoices and sign commercial contracts. The liaison office has no accounting obligation, as it does not carry out any economic activity. And there is no need to apply for a CABIS, meaning a certificate of incorporation, but it can be useful in some case, opening a bank account, etc. The branch is considered as a stable establishment. It carries out the activity of the parent company without having its own specific legal identity. The branch is finally the French establishment of the foreign company and carries out in France the activity of its parent company. Running a business and making sales implies that accounts must be kept in France in compliance with the local accounting rules. Annual financial statements are required, including annual corporate income tax return, and the branch is thus subject to various business taxes in France. The sub is a legal entity separate from the parent company. Then the sub can have other shareholders than the sole parent company. As the sub carries out an economic activity in France, it must therefore also keep accounts and file financial statements. As it carries out an economic activity in France, it must, like the branch, keep accounts and file annual financial statements. Sorry, I said 2 times the same sentence. But like the branch, it is subject to business tax, CIT, VAT, etc. The sub is generally a société anonyme, public limited company, a société par action, simplified company with share capital, or société à responsabilité limitée, private limited company, or even entreprise unipersonnelle. So it's private limited company under sole ownership. Last point I would like you to consider before investing in France, 2 points. The corporate tax rate is falling down and it will fall to 25% in 2022. And second point, interesting that France is ranked the second among ranked is ranked the second among OECD countries for R&D, research and development. In fact, there is a possibility to deduct expenditure of 30% up to 100 million in expenditure and 5% above this threshold. So it's really something to consider for some investors. Thank you.
Thank you, Stéphane. So now, once you have set up, you have got legal constraint, and Etienne Pujol, lawyer at Berry Law, is going to explain to us what are these legal constraint. Etienne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello, everybody. Thanks to the British Embassy to welcome us in this 3 seminars. I will focus this session on the legal constraints, on the corporate legal constraints, on really the key aspects that Stéphane just mentioned in setting up a fully owned subsidiary in France. First, with the assessment of what the World Bank said for 2020, so last year, the report and the comparison of France among the other OECD countries, well, you see that France is very highly well ranked for setting up, for starting a business in France. The score is very high. The only, let's say, drawback or minor issue that we are facing is the procedural constraint, because compared to other countries, we do have some constraints in terms of application of the bylaws, for instance. But these are really minor items compared to the timing and cost constraint for setting them in France, which ranks France, according to the World Bank, to the 36th rank with a very high rate of 93. But if you set aside the procedural aspect, we are much higher than that. So that's really a key aspect compared to other continental Europe countries that France do have in setting up a business, as opposed at what we call the image d'Épinal, so kind of back image of how difficult it is in France to set up a business. No, it's not that difficult. It's not that time consuming. It's not that expensive. And we will share in the last session as regard to French employment laws that also French employment laws is not that difficult to handle. So if we move to the next slide, I will dig into greater details regarding what you do have to keep in mind while thinking about setting up your subsidiary in France. As Stéphane outlined, there are 3 major corporate structures that can be used: the SA, Société Anonyme, the SAS, which is the French simplified stock limited company, and the SARL, which is a structure that is used for lower capitalization companies. So in a nutshell, what you do have to know regarding this type of structure is that when you will consider investing in France, we will address more specifically either the SARL or the SAS. And among these 2 structures, we will address you more to the SAS, because it's really the most convenient legal structure that you want to consider while setting up your subsidiary in France. It's easy because the legal constraints are very low, and everything or almost everything is set by your bylaws. So you can organize the way you want to structure your subsidiary in the bylaws with very limited input of the French Commercial Code. So that's very easy. In what kind of easy aspect we do have, it's easy in the number of shareholders you want to have, because it's at minimum 1 shareholder, which can be the foreign company. It's easy in the share capital you want to raise with your subsidiary, which is €1 minimum. So that's very convenient, even though you will inevitably want to have a higher amount than that, but the minimum is €1, and the liability of the shareholder is limited to the contribution. So that's very also convenient for your the way you want to address the French market. The incorporation is made by the signature of the Article of Associations. So that's also very convenient because you can, for an SAS, you can structure whatever you want in at the appointment of your legal representative, the powers you want to limit for this legal representative, in the way, for instance, you want to limit that with the approval of the shareholder to a certain threshold, for instance. So that's very, very convenient. There's no need to have any authorization when you want to appoint a foreign individual or legal entity as the legal representative of your French sub. You can. The other aspect that we want to address is where you want to locate your premises. So Louisa addressed the fact of being in the Lille area, but you can also, we've seen that several times, to locate your registered offices of your subsidiary when you start the business in a dedicated share office with a rental of premises in a WeWork or whatever, or with some services provider that will help you assessing that. When coming to France, you would also need to check whether your IP rights are already protected in France. It's something that really is sometimes is not addressed before investing, and then there can be a couple of issues with French owners of IP rights. And also bear in mind that in France we do not have the copyright status that many common law countries know about. So that's really something that we can check on your behalf. I will not dig into the greater detail with the deposit of the share capital, because this will be addressed by Philippe in the next session, or in this session, but the next speaker. As in many other countries, we need to know who is the ultimate beneficial ownership. This is something that it's always, we have to check the box to that effect. And once you have your bylaws drafted, properly drafted, when you have that signed by the legal representative and the shareholder, then you just have to public to make the setting up of your sub public with a French commercial tribunal that is relevant, and the publication would be made by a provider. Approximately the cost is between 800 and 1,000 euros. And once this is done, then your subsidiary is ready to be operational in France, and France welcomes you on board. Last word on my law firm. I'm Etienne Pujol, and I'm heading the employment law department of this firm, and we do provide corporate and tax advice for our clients, and specifically with your experience in France in the setting up of your subsidiaries in France. Thank you.
Thank you, Etienne. Now we know about where to set up, how to set up, what are the legal constraints. You need to open a bank account. Opening a bank account, it's not easy, but it's not so long. It can be between 1 week and 1 month, contrary to Britain, where it's much more longer. So, Philippe, would you mind to tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, thank you, Catherine. Hello, everyone. My name is Philippe Lalanne. I am a business counselor working for CIC Bank, Credit Industrial and Commercial, for 20 years now, with more than 8 years in the branch that is specialized in companies. My portfolio is made up of companies with a turnover between 15 and 100 million euros, and their activity varies from IT, tourism, pharmacy, agri-food, industry, consulting, event, audiovisual too. CIC Bank is a leading bank in France. Our branch, Étoile Entreprise, is located in the center of Paris, very close to Avenue des Champs-Élysées, and its parent company is Crédit Mutuel Alliance Fédérale. So in our branch, 2 business counselors and 1 corporate administrator can provide efficient service to our international customer. So we could provide a social engineering in your company with employee saving offering, open account for the capital deposit, and an issue of the certificate for the registration of your company, managing your account on the internet, wire transfer, holding a proxy on your account, banking statement too, financing project. And we have a very developed partnership with our agency, which manage private clients. So we provide insurance to cover your car, and we could provide health insurance for your employee. So to finalize your request, we would need the legal and the accounting documentation of your company, a business plan for your project in France, and all the contracts will be signed in our office in Paris. And however, on exceptional basis, we could accommodate you with a signature in our London branch. So thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to a strong and great collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. Now we have another issue with tax representative, fiscal representation, France and Europe. Philippe, would you like to tell us more about that?
Sure. So my name is Philippe Talon. I'm the manager of the company AFC Représentation Fiscale. Europe is perhaps the biggest open market in the world. It allows foreign companies to do business easily. The fiscal rules are complex. The compliance is one of the top objectives for the foreign company. AFC Représentation Fiscale provide a fully managed VAT registration and return filing service on a monthly basis. We are accredited by the French tax authority to do that kind of business. As example, a UK company may need a French or European VAT number for its commercial activities in France or in Europe with no fixed establishment. The Brexit has increased a lot of formalities for UK companies. Tax and customs formalities are heavy. The tax and especially the VAT compliance are major issues for the UK company. As example, have you already heard about the import one-stop shop or the one-stop shop if you are selling in France? The UK company may use the right subcontractor as a tax representative, but you may need the right freight forwarder, international carrier with an office in France and in UK. An important point, the tax representative has a solidarity in France with its foreign customer for the debt and penalties. Next slide, please. The second point is a UK company may have an employee in France, may have employees in France with no fixed establishment. The use of an accredited tax representative is compulsory for the withholding tax. But my company can offer also financial services, payment of the wages, social organisms, withholding tax. We are working closely with the French payroll provider and all our partners at Eurespect in France. We are also the link with the social organism. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Philippe. So now you have faced all the taxation. You have to take care about human resources and to develop your business. So Anne-Hélène Squarneck, founder for Authentic Human Resources, is going to tell us a bit more.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Catherine, and good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Anne-Hélène Squarneck. I'm an expert in HR, and I've created my consultancy company to provide expertise to British and international companies which have subsidiaries in France. I created it for two reasons. The first one is to assess and prevent financial and human risk when having a subsidiary in France, and that's very important. And the second one is to guide directors and managers when navigating through French complex issues. If I can give a few priorities in terms of what you need to know, what you have to do in terms of French HR, here is a few points. First of all, you have to decide the type of contract you want to put in place. The first two ones are the fixed term contracts and the open-end contracts. There are other contracts as well, depending on the collective bargaining agreement your company is affiliated to. You can also think of temping and freelance, which can be a solution. You need also to choose your occupational physician for medical surveillance of employees in France and working condition monitoring as well. They will help you create a mandatory health and safety document, which is very important in France at the moment, especially with the COVID, whatever. You have to choose the company health insurance and employee benefit scheme for employees as well. And another important thing as well is to choose how you would keep track of working time and time off, as there are some legal obligations regarding these areas. The last part in terms of priorities would be in terms of recruitment. And as Louisa said before, I would also recommend to approach high schools for internship, but also to approach them because they've got some alumni network which can be of help as well. All of this can be a little bit tricky, and from my perspective, and as I always say to my client, is in HR, everything is going well until something goes wrong. So my job basically is to ensure the French companies are compliant with the French labor law to prevent risk and to also guide directors and managers to cope with the do's and don'ts, what you have to do, what you can do, or what you can't do. My actions to help you would go from implementing the mandatory health and safety actions, guiding through the elections of employee representative, which is an obligation when there are more than 11 employees in your French subsidiary, facilitating the obligation to hold individual professional meetings with employees, leading the execution of companies' HR processes, also interface with local partners such as payroll provider, lawyers, training fund, and every other HR actors. And finally, I would also advise, guide, and train my English HR counterparts and clients so they understand how it works locally. Yeah, thank you, Catherine. So they know how it works locally and ensure they keep some kind of tracking and control of what's going on in France in terms of HR. To conclude, I just want to say that if you're scared of trade unions and tough employee representative, it's not fashion anymore in France, so don't worry about that. And last but not least, our President Macron has decided to loosen some rules around labor laws. Therefore, and as you've seen with my colleagues, it's getting easier to set up and develop new business in France. So we will be delighted to welcome you very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anne-Hélène. So we will finish this presentation with Thomas Bidou on what are the constraints and benefits of hiring in France without a registered entity. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. So my name is Thomas Bidou. I am French Payroll Experts founder and CEO. And as the name stated, I am a French payroll expert and I do payroll. I provide payroll services for foreign companies. Thank you, Catherine. Mostly foreign companies who comes to France usually start with what we call an SF. An SF, it's entreprise sans établissement fixe. Basically, it's a foreign company without a fixed establishment. It's an easy way to test the water of the market in France and see if you want to definitively move to France or at least your business. There are some restrictions to this system. One of them, and the major one, is the activity. Same as with Etienne mentioned, you cannot do commercial acts. Your employee cannot do commercial acts in France under the system of the foreign company without a fixed establishment. Basically, every commercial act, I mean invoice and contract, are done by the home office, your company, basically. You cannot have an office. Obviously, you don't have an establishment, you don't have an office. That implies that your employee works from home. And the labor law that applies is the French labor law. The employee will have a French employment contract under French labor law. So you will refer to Etienne for more advice on this detail. Of course, if there are restrictions, there are also benefits. One of the major benefits is that you have no booking to be done in France. So everything will be booked in your local gap, so no problem there. You don't necessarily need a French bank account. You need Philippe AFC's services, but you don't need to have a French bank account. It makes things a bit easier within a bit of time. And obviously, there are no tax. Since you are not an entity in France, you don't pay corporate tax and you don't pay VAT. Registration process varies. Social Security and retirement are very straightforward. Social Security, it's a couple of documents to fill in and send to the Social Security. Retirement is automatic. Life and insurance is much more complex. Since it's not a public service, it's mandatory but not managed by the public. You need to find an insurance company, collect quotation, find the one that suits you, and register. Process can be a lengthy one. Occupational medicine, it varies because it's the same way as with life and health insurance. It's private, corporate, and varies from one corporate to the other. To be honest, occupational medicine in Paris are very well suited to receive foreign companies. Occupational medicine in countryside are less suited to receive foreign companies. And registration to the fiscal authority is a bit more complex. You need to register on the website, then you need to receive an authorization code by post, which can be lengthy if it ever happens, and then activate the code to the fiscal authority. Basically, you can see that registration is not very complex, has benefits and has restriction, at least for a foreign company without a fixed establishment. Catherine, if you please, thank you very much. However, registration for you will be extremely simple. As you can see in the table, French payroll expert, or at least your payroll provider, can do everything for you except what choosing for you. Basically, French authority, we send the document on your behalf if you grant us with the power of attorney, of course. Retirement is done with the social contributions, which we do for you. Life and health insurance is once you choose which insurance you want to apply to, we send everything on your behalf with the power of attorney. Fiscal authority is the same way. With power of attorney, we can do everything on your behalf. And the occupational medicine comes exactly the same way. We register for you and do everything on your behalf, except one thing. As I mentioned, on the countryside, occupational medicine are less suited for foreign companies, and some of them require payment by check, which is a bit complicated for foreign companies at times. Basically, as a conclusion, I would say that French payroll is indeed complicated, unless you hire a payroll expert to do it on your behalf, which is exactly what an expert on payroll services for French company should be doing for you. I always say that my job is to make sure next time you speak about French payroll, you say, oh, it's so simple. I just give everything to Thomas and it takes care of it. And that's exactly how a payroll provider, an expert at least, should work for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. So, willing to develop your business in France? Need a single point of contact for all your business issues? We are your solution in France. The Franco-British Chambers of Commerce in association with the British Embassy and your experts in France. So is there any questions that you would like to raise? Don't be shy. So it seems that there is no question. Anyway, you know.
Catherine, sorry for butting in. I was just going to take this moment. If there's no questions, well, I'm sure there are a lot of questions, but probably too many questions that are too complex to answer within 9 minutes. But I wanted to take this moment as well just to promote, as obviously we have a series of these webinars and we have 2 more coming up. And the second webinar coming up will be featuring as part of our Europe Trade Month, which is a marketing month, a month of webinars, activities and events organized all by the Department for International Trade Europe. So please take a look online. Please speak to your local international trade advisor or any local international trade advisors online right now. If you want more information, please speak with me. And once again, just say thank you to the Franco-British Chamber, who are fantastic and a really good point of contact and for information, as well as the Your Experts in France group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luc. I just that's something I wanted to point out. The next 2 Doing Business in France will be on the 9th of November, and the subject would be how to export to France. And on the 24th of November, it will be on compliance requirements for working in France. It will be at the same time, 1 p.m. for British time. So we hope that you will be all there again. And there is another subject maybe we can raise. It's the Franco-British Trade and Investment Awards. On the 2nd of September, we will celebrate the excellence of Franco-British trade and investment. And if some of your companies, British companies, would like to apply, there is 4 awards, one on clean growth, another one on innovation and technology, the SME exports, and there will be a jury awards. So if you would like to apply, do not hesitate to visit our website, franco-britishchambers.com. Anyway, we will send you the presentation, which is a presentation as well with all the information regarding the next events of this Europe Trade Month, and along with the information on Franco-British Trade and Investment Awards.
Is there time to ask another question?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much. I've been wondering how to do this. I'm George Murray. I am a semi-retired marketing consultant. I've lived in France for a long time. I've been a gérant of several French companies, and I know quite a lot about this way of life, and I'm in a position at the moment to offer office space at very low cost to British companies wanting to set up a base in France. I know a lot about French company structures, but one that I haven't heard before is, I think if I go back to, excuse me, Philippe Talon, who mentioned that a company without a registered activity in France can hire employees. And that was taken forward by Thomas Bidou, French payroll expert. French labor law applies, I understand that. Everything has to be booked in the UK. I don't fully understand that. No need for a French bank account. Well, that presumably is a fact, but I can understand that international banking transactions could be complicated. There is no French tax. I believe that when I see it. I wonder if, well, as I say, this is a complete new one to me, that you can do business in France without any French structure on the ground. Could there be a little more explanation about that, possibly?
Yes, of course. I'll take the stand if you don't mind. Basically, when a foreign company has an employee in France, depending, of course, on the international agreement, but basically for all European companies, including the UK, the foreign company can hire someone in France without having an entity in France. It's not really doing business per se. I mean, the employee is not going to sell anything. It's going to work for the company while being in France. But that means that the company itself does not do activity through the French employee.
So what's the point?
Let's say, for example, you are a service provider in the UK and you need maintenance, IT maintenance, let's say, that would be speaking in France, and you have your employees in France working your IT maintenance for your French client, but your company is not in France, it's fully in the UK.
So there can be no business activity, for example, no sales or market development activity.
Not directly done by the employee in France. However, the employee can put in contact the prospect with the main office.
So
as long as
negotiations for business.
For business, yes. As long as negotiations are made by the Home Office in the UK.
So he can respond or report to a sales manager, for example, in the UK.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes it. I have to see. In most cases, I don't really see the point, but I'm glad to know it can be done. That's an addition to
one
my
other situation.
repertoire.
One other situation that comes a lot since Brexit is that UK company have hired French people living in the UK, and this individual wishes to come back to France and stay living in France, so they can keep working for the same company, doing the same job, living in France, and having the benefit of the French social security and everything that goes with it.
So it can be a way of putting a foot into the, putting a toe into the French pond, so to speak.
Absolutely.
But any employee in France is, as you pointed out, subject to French employment law.
Absolutely, and social
contribution. You also pointed out it's very complicated. It's not as complicated as in the road transport business, which I've also had some experience, and that is terrible. Thank you very much indeed.
Anytime.
I just wanted to add regarding George's question that the employment law aspect will be addressed in the last session of the 3 sessions that Luke and Catherine mentioned earlier. The fact for the employee working in France for a foreign company working for business development, commercial activities may trigger the existence of the so-called permanent establishment in France, which may raise some concern.
Could you say that again, please?
Yeah, permanent establishment.
Okay.
And this raises and triggers corporation tax and the VAT issues. So one should be very careful regarding the job description, the job description of the employee, so that it stands as far as possible from any commercial activity in France. So we do provide for advice, legal advice, legal opinion in this respect, but one should be very careful about that because this triggers taxation consequences.
Do you know, I can't help feeling it would be easier to get on the phone or on email from the UK frankly. But to say it's an addition to my knowledge and my repertoire. Thank you very much.
Catherine.
Yes, Brian.
Hi.
Hi, Brittany.
Can I just quickly have 20 seconds to mention something about Western France, please?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Very, very pleased to see so many people on this meeting, and thanks for the info from Luke and DIT and the other speakers. I was very interested to hear from Louisa Delattre in Lille. I'm actually physically in Lille, although I'm a neo-Breton, as Catherine knows very well, working in Lille, and I come here very frequently. I'm absolutely conscious of the huge importance of the Hauts-de-France, Lille, the whole Calais tunnel issue and the short straits, or the Étoiles de Calais. But I'm based out in Brittany. I'm the Brittany and Channel Islands, strangely enough, delegate for the Franco-British Chamber of Commerce. I'm very proud to be so over the last 6 years. So Catherine is in sort my boss in France. And I also, as Luke will know, I work very, very closely now with DIT, with a project called Cross-Manche Development Group or Cross-Channel Development Group, quite new, working essentially in the western part of France, Brittany in particular, trying to open up better links, freight, trade, commerce, straight across the long straits, I call them, that is in the Western Manche or the Western Channel, directly to particularly to Solent, that's Southampton, Portsmouth, Poole, very important south coast of England, portal area, industrial area, which actually has been announced by Prime Minister Johnson as one of the new free ports. So a lot of effervescence going on there, we hope, for the British business community coming up soon. We've included in there, for the first time ever, the British Channel Islands, Jersey and Guernsey, who sometimes find themselves a little bit alone and abandoned in the Channel these days. And we're just trying to encourage essentially business, but also education, research, and better transport links through there. Just to say simply that if anybody has any reason to try to or need to do anything that's towards Western France or within that area, I saw that Murray Norton, the chief executive of the Jersey Chamber of Commerce, was in the meeting at the beginning. Very nice to see him. He's a member of our Trans-Manche Development Group. There's a big hub we've got there now and so on. So it's not the moment now, but it would be great to try to build on that. And perhaps one day, who knows, in the future, have some sort of representation in the Normandy region and the Hauts-de-France, as, of course, in Cornwall, right the way across the southern coast to beautiful Kent, because that's it seems such a great shame that around the Manche area or the Channel area, there are more organizations who specifically try to look at all the valuable things and the positive sides of this huge stretch of water, the most frequented, busy stretch of commercial water in the world. And that's what we're trying to do. And thanks for that little few seconds of time, Catherine, and have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Brian, to update us on what you do in Brittany and through the West Development, Trans-Manche Development, to link Solent, Jersey, Guernsey, and Brittany all together in order that business goes better. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to raise a question? Otherwise, Luc, and your expert in France, thank you very much for your contribution. We are delighted to work with you and for our attendees. So we are here to help you, to assist you, to develop your business in France. The Chamber has been doing that for more than 130 years. So, we are here for you. So I wish you a nice afternoon and hope to see you on the 9th. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.